sang aux patries, nous le jurons tous, tu vivras.
Hello everybody, welcome to another episode of Animation from Abroad, the show where I talk about animations from around the world. Today's country is Belgium, and today's animation is Tarzoon, The Shame of the Jungle. Released in 1975, this was the first X-rated foreign film in the United States. As such, there are two different versions of this movie, one in French and one in English. As you can guess, I'm going to be watching the English version, which actually features the voices of John Belushi and Bill Murray, so this should be pretty interesting. Anyway, let's get on with this.
Shame!
Thank God no one else is home right now, or I'd have some explaining to do. Now, given that this is an adult film, there's going to be a lot of stuff that I can't show you. I probably could because the movie itself is actually on YouTube, but I'm not going to risk it. So I'll just try to give you the basic rundown of the plot. So right off the bat, we're given a narration explaining that Africa is basically a land of savagery and violence. We're then treated to a rather distasteful caricature of an African man. And I'm not even going to touch that subject with a 10-foot pole. It's a product of its time, but it's still wrong. Anyway, there's a woman named Queen Bazonga, and her two-headed assistant, Craig. Now, Queen Bazonga wants to take over the world, but the only problem is she's bald. So on the search for a scalp donor, they find a picture of June, the girlfriend of Shame. Which is a pretty weird name, but I guess that Tarzoon would have been a little bit on the nose. Then again, why is that the name of the movie? Then again, who really gives a shit? Anyway, speaking of Tarzan, I've got some interesting information for you. In this movie, the main character Shame is voiced by a man named Johnny Weissmuller Jr. So what does that have to do with anything? Well, his dad was Johnny Weissmuller, a man who got famous in the 20s for receiving 5 gold medals, and then went on to further fame in the 30s and 40s for playing Tarzan. In fact, he's responsible for the famous Tarzan yell, which is still used in some films to this day. So yeah. It's kind of weird to think that his son would voice the main character in a semi-pornographic parody of something that made his dad famous. But that's life. Now back to the plot. So the queen sets out an army to go capture June so she can get her hair. And the army consists of only what I can describe as dick Nazis. Like, literally, they're anthropomorphic dicks that use their balls to walk around. And they march around and they make the formation of a swastika and everything. Now again, I could probably get away with showing this because the whole movie's on YouTube, but I'm not going to do that. You can use your imagination. So now it's up to our hero to save June. So he ends up running into a few people, then a bunch of shit happens, including beer with Jim Belushi, and then he arrives at his location. Now, I just saved you about half the movie. When I say a bunch of shit happens, I mean a bunch of shit happens. This movie is mostly filler. I would say that I feel insulted that the makers of this movie put that little effort into it, but then again, I really don't give a shit. I still don't even know which character Bill Murray is, and I don't even care to look into it. So now Shame has made it to the Queen's compound, and she's trying to seduce him into coming onto her side. This includes taking off her dress and revealing that she has 7 pairs of breasts. And that was pretty unappealing, to say the least. Something like the woman with 3 breasts from Total Recall is one thing, but this is just gratuitous. Shane politely declines her offer, telling her that he only wants June. As you can imagine, this only serves to piss her off. Eventually, all hell breaks loose, and in her rage, she's very abusive to her assistants as well as her army, and they end up turning on her. Or maybe they got attacked by someone else. I don't remember. The point is that members of her dick army end up turning on her and they kill her. And they do it by, how should I say this? Filling her up till she explodes. Needless to say, once I'm done making this video, I look forward to repressing the memory of viewing that. And that should be soon, because after the Queen's death, it's pretty much happily ever after. So that was Tarzoon, Shame of the Jungle. After I saw this, I really questioned myself whether or not this was the worst thing I've watched so far on this channel. And I really debated it, but I said yes. The debate was between North Korean cartoons and this, and I decided that it's debatable which one has the worst animation quality, but at least they knew how to stick to a frickin' plot line. I will give it credit though, I did get a few good chuckles here. There is some self-referential humor in the film. Like, for instance, a couple characters are thinking, why are we in this movie? Let's go work for this other animation studio, or let's go work for Hanna-Barbera. Then there's this other girl who's like, oh, I'm only here because I blew some guy to get here. Obviously talking about her voice acting gig. And then at the end, Craig, the two-headed assistant, one of the heads ends up killing the other one, and he's like, oh no, I thought cartoons couldn't die. I thought that those were kind of funny, but overall, I think this movie's just worth skipping. If you don't believe me and you want to see it for yourself, I can't stop you. All I can say is I don't recommend it. Anyway, thanks for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye.
À toi notre sang, ô patrie, nous le jurons tous, tu vivras.
This is a product of our great society.